Welcome to the second part. Liliana, a 6-year-old girl, suddenly recalls the tragic plot of a novel where her family perishes due to the obsession of 3 powerful male leads with the heroine Rebecca. However, Rebecca dies unexpectedly before the story even begins, throwing Liliana into uncertainty. Determined to protect her loved ones, she tries to avoid the male leads, but fate intervenes. She encounters Francia, a dangerous mage, and later Marius, the Emperor, and Leopold, a KN commander. As she navigates these encounters, she realizes the original story's events are shifting, raising questions about Rebecca's death and her own role in this altered fate. The scene now begins with Liliana, who is done eating. However, she finds the atmosphere has turned weird yet again. She wonders if Marius has said something to her big sister Alice. While she is away in the restroom, she glares at Marius, wondering what he did. Marius notices her staring and smiles brightly. He asks if there is anything she wants to do after she finishes eating. Lily says she wants to have a snack, but she hesitates as she sees Alice look at her upsettingly. Nonetheless, she hesitatingly confesses that she wants to see the circus. Her sisters did not like her going to crowded places, but they accepted the fact that Liliana had to go to kindergarten to socialize with kids her age, but going to the circus, theater, and amusement parks was out of the question. These places are practically off limits since Lana's sisters were worried she would catch some minor illnesses from mingling with too many people. As expected, Alice's demeanor turns darker as she stares at Liliana. Liliana regrets uttering that place's name and hopes she does not get scolded. But to her surprise, Marius places a hand on her hair warmly and agrees to take her to the circus. He says they will go right after they eat. Liliana's face lights up with excitement as she now gets to see the circus that Vicky brags so much about. Alice sigh in defeat while Liliana thinks of Marius as her hero. After the meal, Liliana grabs Alice's hand and hurries her to the circus. Alice assures her they can still see it if they go slowly. Liliana knows that is true, but she ate broccoli diligently since she wanted to see it quickly. She also patiently waited for the meal too. And she lets go of Alice's hands and says she will not fall. She then flees, unable to wait for the circus. She hoped to look at the fire show Vicky bragged about. She hopes to brag to her friends about it. Her sisters ran after her, trying to grab hold of her, but it was too late. Liliana sees a carriage running into her and everything turns dark. Liliana knew she should have listened to her sister, not because of the original story, not because she is sick, but to die in this way. Liliana did not expect this. She is tired of being sick. She hopes it will not be painful if she dies like this. She opens her eyes to see herself in someone's arms. It was Alice. All surround her unconscious body in worry. Alice wakes up and immediately looks at Liliana. Liliana thinks her sister will scold her, but to her surprise, Alice begins to ask if she is hurt. This makes Liliana tear up more, and she begins to apologize to her sister profusely. Alice also tears up and hugs her. Later, Liliana tires herself to sleep. Marius suggests to Alice that she comfort the little girl more as she was scared earlier. He playfully says that her pretty face got a scar, but he quite likes that too. Alice says they should do it. This confuses Marius, and he asks what she means. Alice suggests once again, let's do it. She meant a political marriage. The scene shifts to a flashback. A dying man exclaims that the girl is absolutely lovely, more than romance. Alice had always preferred friends or little sisters. She has never thought seriously about marriage in her life. She preferred being recognized for her skills through work and becoming the best. That has always been her ambition. As she looks back at the career she has built so far and the life plans she has made for the future, she thinks the road ahead will surely be smooth and safe if everything remains as it is. But Liliana is like a little sister and a daughter at the same time to Alice, a girl she loves deeply too. Let a girl like her die from a horrendous disease. Alice cannot bear it, and so she suggests Marius write a contract that details exactly where and how much he is willing to help. Alice is determined to eliminate the disease altogether, no matter what it costs. Her eyes look like they are ready to launch into battle at any moment. Nereus smiles. He was initially cautious, but it seems to him that Lillian really does mean a lot to Alice. On the other hand, Leopold thinks of how scared the little girl must have been. He regrets not being able to protect the girl first. Alice was fast than him because she was naturally a guardian. His attention diverts as he spots Regina. His heart skips a beat as he approaches her. Seeing her saddened face, he asks what happened. Regina says she feels pathetic without listening. Leopold instantly says it is not pathetic at all. Regina confesses this is the second time she could not save Liliana. Every time she ended up losing sight of the girl, she regrets not having more strength or being born with a special ability. She thinks her older sister would not have suffered if that were the case. Leopold grabs her hand warmly and confesses that he is a clown with delicate manners. This shocks Regina. Leopold continues that he really does not have any talent other than fighting or protecting. He believes that everyone has their own strengths and weaknesses. He suggests that Regina protect Liliana in her own way. He then realizes he is still holding her hand and swiftly lets go. He apologizes for touching her without permission, but Regina ends up laughing and wipes her tears away. She thanks him and requests he give some of his time to her before returning to the Empire. She says she would like to invite him to her house one day. Leopold says no invitation is necessary and she'll request that she just have a date with him. Regina blushes profusely just when everyone thought that the story would end with a sweet romance between the two. The Bursa sisters get to know that their elder sister Alice is marrying the Emperor of the Empire. They scream at Alice and show her the newspaper. They argue how ridiculous it is to be married when she does not even have a boyfriend. At first they think the newspaper is spreading ridiculous rumors and gossip, but Alice calmly discloses that the article is true. There is a moment's pause which is broken by Liliana's scream. They all hate the idea of her marriage. Alice says it all turned out suddenly. She says they are just going to skip the engagement ceremony and exchange the rings, and when Marius returns to the Empire, Alice will go with him after spending some time together. They will have a wedding. Aggravated, Amelia asks what she is talking about and suggests that she explain herself thoroughly. She questions why she is getting married suddenly and why the groom is the Emperor. Alice suggests to her not to interfere as this is a matter between her and Marius. She tells Liliana to go to her room. In her room, Liliana asks Cookie why her sister is suddenly acting like this. She cannot hear her sisters well through the door and wishes she could listen a bit more. She sneaks out and begins to hear them better. She hears Alice talk about how she will be raised by her. The scene shifts to Mars thinking about what an intense woman Alice is, even with such a cold expression. She is willing to put everything on the line when it comes to her younger sisters. To him, she does not look weak at all, and the benefits from this marriage are significant. He sees a commotion and is about to walk right through. However, he spots Liliana screaming for him, shocking him. Liliana had heard the conversation that morning and deduced that her older sister would take her to the Empire with her. In other words, Liliana would inevitably be separated from her twin sisters. When the family breaks up, society is sick. When society is sick, the nation collapses. When the nation collapses, it leads to the end of the world. Therefore, Liliana must prevent her sisters from living separately, and so Liliana makes the decision to persuade Marius. She discreetly leaves her room and makes her way out. She reads the newspaper and deduces that Marius is at the Rizzo Hotel. Thinking of herself as an adult, Liliana decides to take the carriage alone. However, the coachman refuses to take her to the Rizzo Hotel even though she has money. The coachman tells her to bring her mom if she wants to go to the hotel. Lana pitifully says she does not have a mom or dad. She says her uncle is at the Rizzo Hotel and she is going to meet him. Talking about her uncle makes her miss him. Andrea decided to move to a remote area without prior notice. He told his sisters to live well on their own as he had done the best for them, being 24 years older than Liliana and 6 years older than Alice. Andrea was the head of their household. After their parents died, Andrea took care of all the affairs of the house and raised Liliana, who was just born. For him to leave the capital where he lived his whole life must be because he was tired of raising his little sister, who was like a daughter to him. At least it is what Liliana thinks. This makes her tear up on the spot, making the coachman feel awkward. He agrees to take her there and hops her up on the carriage. Liliana is relieved that her plan worked. She wonders how to persuade Marius not to marry her sister. Should she lie and say he is the most handsome boy in the world? Time will tell. They reach the hotel and Liliana hands the money to the coachman. She is proud of her herself for being an adult. The coachman stares at the few pennies and stops her. He states that the money is not enough. Liliana is surprised. Her sisters always gave her 5 coins for the price of the carriage, and she gave the coachman 5 coins, but it turns out she has brought copper coins instead of silver. Back to the present, Liliana clings to Marius' leg and requests that he loan her some money. She reveals what happen, to which Marius asks why she took the carriage. She confesses that she wants to see him, making Marius smile brightly, and Pride Liliana finds his face annoying, but controls her mouth. Marius hands the man one gold coin and he happily leaves. When Marius reveals he gave a gold coin to the man, Liliana is astounded. She was told by her sisters that one gold coin was worth 100 silver coins. Marius suggests they go eat something as they settle down. Marius asks why his sister came to see him. Liliana says he is no longer her uncle. Nevertheless, Marius says his sister-in-law is the most adorable. Liliana asserts that he does not call her his sister-in-law. She says she is against his marriage with her older sister. Marius makes a dejected expression and asks why. Liliana promises to buy him chocolate if he gives up her sister. Marius feeds her, asking why she does not like him. Liliana says her sister is too much for him. Marius says he is also handsome and strong, but Liliana finds his self-praise embarrassing and wonders if all emperors act like this. She admits he is handsome, but to her Leopold is the strongest. Upon asking, Liliana reveals she came alone. This takes Marius back. He asks if she told her sisters that she was coming. Liliana averts her eyes and says she did. As she thinks about it, she remembers she left them a note saying she would be in the park for a while, but she is not sure that she did. This causes her to panic. She begins to tear up and hug her stuffy. She hopes for the stuffy to do some magic. Marius tells his butler to send a message to the Burso family and inform them that his sister-in-law is here. Meanwhile, in the Burso house, all is set loose. Emilia and Regina frantically look for their little sister, but to no avail. Alice explains that the first 3 hours are critical for missing all cases. After that, the chances of it becoming a prolonged situation increase. Emilia suggests seeing a wizard so they can use seeking magic or tracking spells to help them. Just then, there is a knock on the door. Regina hopes for it to be Liliana, but Emilia points out that she would have simply come through the door. They cautiously opened the door and there stood Leopold with flowers in his hand. Regina remembers was supposed to have a date with him today. Leopold senses something is wrong. Emilia goes to see a wizard while Regina apologizes to the man and reveals what happened just then. Max arrives and informs them of Marius's message. He discloses that Liliana Burso is with His Highness at the Rizzo Hotel. Hearing this shocks both Regina and Alice. Regina and Alice make their way to the hotel. Alice ponders deeply in the carriage. She tells herself to calmly confront Liliana when she meets her. She knows getting emotional in front of her is not good. They make their way inside and see Liliana protesting that she does not go home or else her sisters will scold her, but Marius refuses to do as she says. Alice approaches Liliana calmly, but tears begin to stream down her cheeks. She asks Liliana if she knows how worried she is. She grabs Liliana and says she must tell someone. When she leaves, Liliana begins to tear up and apologizes. Liliana feels bad. Her big sister was never the one to cry or show any weakness. It is all because of her selfishness. She hugs Alice and apologizes. Liliana fears her sisters will leave her like her brother did and begs Alice not to abandon her. Alice's eyes widen and sheer shock. Even though Liliana is her little sister, Alice has raised her with love, not just out of obligation. She has really given it her all. Regina takes Liliana to comfort her while Alice stays motionless to her. Liliana is her little sister, her child. She wonders if she were unable to provide the sense of security a parent would. Regina notices Alice has changed her demeanor. The big sister, who is always so strong, crumbled in front of her eyes. Alice suggests going home and talking there. Back at home, Regina makes Liliana sit on a chair for 15 minutes and reflect on her actions. Marius offers to sit with her. He asks if she came all the way to the hotel because she did not want her older sister to get married. He asks if it is because it feels like he is taking her sister away. Liliana turns embarrassed and says she wants to go to the bathroom. She runs away, not wanting to face Marius. Leopold, being a romantic, would likely move to Trenna if he ended up with Regina, but Marius is the emperor. Liliana thinks he would not immigrate, and living in the imperial palace would make it hard for her to visit her sister. More than that, it is Alice. Most people say they feel warmth when they think of their mother, but for Liliana that warmth is her big sister's embrace. In a world without parents, her sisters are her everything. If they scatter, Liliana will be left living in a fragmented world. The pain of losing someone precious, Andrea leaving her, was more than enough. She SPSBS Regina sitting with Leopold and Hears them converse. Regina reveals to Leopold that she has decided to live in the Empire, just like her sister. She asks him if there is a job she could possibly take while she is staying in the Empire. When Alice said her marriage to the Emperor was for her career, Regina knew she was lying. It is because Alice knows better than anyone that being the Empress of the Empire is not going to benefit her career in the Coast Guard. Regina had warned Alice that the Empire was a caste-based society. Their system, norms, and even mindset are completely different from theirs. She asked Alice how she would manage on her own. Alice had assured them she would make it work, but seeing someone who claimed they would be fine crumble like that, Regina could not stand idly by. She is certain there is some deal between Alice and the Emperor, but it seems like Alice will never tell them what it is. Plus, she cannot send her alone to the Empire and watch her struggle on her own. She also cannot bear being apart from Liliana. Leopold is startled. He spots Liliana and suggests to Regina that they move to a different spot before talking further. Liliana runs away and wonders what is going on. She feels sad for Amelia as she will be left behind all alone. She thinks their family would end up being scattered to the winds. Leopold had told Rena that even if she did not work, she would always have a place to stay in the Empire since she was the Empress sister, but Regina had said that she does not want to be a burden and wants to support herself. Leopold is aware that Traven highly values labor, even if someone is wealthy. It is expected that everyone has a job. That is why all the sisters of the politically prestigious Burso family are employed. But the noble women Leopold has seen so far do not work. A noble's duty is to use the income from their lands for charity and to care for their people. That is not considered labor. Leopold smiles. He would be lying if he said he was not concerned. But being able to stay with Regina makes him happy, even if it is a little crazy. VX has noticed how Leopold has come to smile more often. Leopold even directly confessed to Marius that he was happy about Regina coming. Marius' eyes. He mutters how Leopold has always been the type to see nothing else when he is in love. Leo asks what he means as this is his first love. Neris points out how he will be the only noble capable of influencing Trancha if the two tie the can. Plus he and Marius will be tied by blood once more. Marius reminds Leo of their vow if a war breaks out between the Empire and Trancha. The Empire will lose both its crown prince and its supreme commander. Marius says he wants Leo and Regina to work out. He cannot help but root for Leopold because he knows his past. He then decides to go deliver something. On the other hand, Liliana faces a 3-day playground ban. She misses her friends. It had been days since she heard that Regina was going to the Empire. She was sad at first, but then their youngest sister scolded her until she was in tears, as if things were not already hard enough that made it worse. Getting scolded like that made Liliana think it might not be so bad to just go to the Empire with her big sister. Liliana finishes writing a letter to Andrea. She hopes it would be nice if the four of them could live together again. She thinks he will come back and stop them if she tells him their sisters are about to marry weird men. She asks Regina to take her to the post office, but she says she is busy. Amelia agrees to go with her. As Liliana opens the front door, she runs into Marius. Marius falls back in pain as his forehead bumps into the door. His sudden appearance surprises Liliana. Marius murmurs how it hurts. He playfully suggests the little one blow on his nose to make it better, but when Liliana approaches him, she feels suspension issues. She blows cutely, making Marius chuckle affectionately. Amelia glares at the man and asks why he is there. Marius asks if Alice is here. Amelia coldly denies, but Marius says she should not lie even if she does not like him. Amelia turns enraged and asks why he even asked if he knew. Marius innocently replies that he wants to get closer to his future sister-in-law. However, this further aggravates Amelia. Liliana barks, telling him to go away as Alice is sleeping. Alice hears them argue outside, causing her to wake up. She goes outside and asks Marius what brings him here. Marius smiles and says he came to give her the engagement ring. He states that even though they are skipping the ceremony, he wanted to hand it to her himself. He suggests going somewhere nice, having dinner, and exchanging rings there. Alice suggests Liliana come with her, but Amelia instantly grabs her hand and says they have somewhere else to go. Amelia then hurriedly leaves with Liliana. Liliana waves at her big sister and tells her to come soon. Alice smiles and says she understands. Alice and Marius settle down and discuss the contract details. Marius elaborates That the marriage will last for 10 years starting from the date of the imperial wedding he tells her that she can find. The compensation and benefits in the documents Alice suggests that he had one more thing about healing with divine power. Upon asking, Alice explains that her second sister is a scholar who says there are ways to explore treatments using magic, thus she tells him to arrange for the power master or a magician of equal skill to research and treat Lillian's condition. Marius hums and says that part will need to be discussed with Frenois Castle separately. He requests that she give him a day so he can contact the Tower Master today. Alice agrees and adds that her family can stay in the Empire whenever they wish without permission or approval during the marriage. Marius agrees and asks if there is anything else she wants to add. Alice purrs. She has reviewed the contract several times and there is nothing more to address. She asks what about him. Marius is taken aback. He then smiles happily and shyly says what more could he ask for when he is Alice? Alice sighed grumpily. In all truth, Marius is not sure what he genuinely wants either. On the other hand, Liliana is furious to realize that her sister tricked her into meeting with Frenois Castle despite Amelia's bribing. Liliana refuses to comply. Amelia said she would send the letter to their brother and buy her a kid's meal, so Liliana followed her here, but it turns out she wanted her to meet Francois Castle. Amelia promises to buy her mango pudding and jelly. Eventually, Liliana agrees, with the story deviating a lot from the original. Frenois might not be as threatening as she had thought for now. Frenois does not seem scary to Liliana. Frenois smiles and stares at the little girl. He then questions if she is scared of brother. Liliana's face turns pale and she finds it difficult to respond. She reluctantly denies it. Amelia corrects that he is not brother, but Mr. Amelia cheekily states that if he had gotten in trouble when he was younger, he would have a daughter old enough for her age by now. France overs his offensiveness and explains the Mona potion he made. He explains that it must be consumed within an hour of being made. Even if it tastes bad, Liliana must drink it. Liliana looks at the potion in disgust, remembering the awful taste of the previous one. She contemplates skipping it and saying she does not want the pudding or jelly. However, Francia magically brings out a bear and offers to give it to her if she finishes the potion without complaining. Liliana beams and becomes determined to drink it. When Liliana and Amelia return, Regina introduces Leopold to them officially. She discloses that she will be dating him starting today. Liliana came home in a good mood after getting her jelly, only for her older sister to announce she was dating Leopold. Amelia congratulates her sister, but asks why suddenly. To make things worse for Liliana, Regina reveals she is planning to move to the Empire with Leopold. The bombshell announcement shocks the three sisters alike. Amelia is furious beyond relief and asks Regina if she is out of her mind. Regina smiles and tells her to, or her voice. Amelia asks her to tell her the truth behind her decision. Regina explains she does not want a long-distance relationship and wants to see Leopold often. Amelia grabs hold of her sister and says they need to talk. Regina coldly refuses. Amelia flees, muttering how Regina always does what she wants. Regina changes the topic and asks Liliana if she got a new doll. Liliana reveals that the handsome mister gave it to her as a gift. Liliana confesses she likes Leopold. Regina's previous boyfriends were all like trash cats, thus Liliana is genuinely happy she is with Leopold now. If it is Leopold, even if he gets to know of her sister's secret, he will not hurt her. Alice questions if they are seriously dating. Regina says she is serious. Liliana asks if it means she is not coming back to Tranche with her. Leopold asks Liliana if she wants to stay in Tranche. Liliana turns overwhelmed as she looks at Leopold and Regina and then at Alice's ring. She says this is not fun anymore and excuses herself to lie down. She obviously wants to stay in Trena, the warm climate, the beautiful beaches, wherever one goes, the delicious and cheap lemons, her friends, and the memories with her family. All of it is here. She thinks she would have said something to her sisters if she were an adult, but it will take her over 10 years to become one. That is more than 3,650 nights she will have to sleep through. The next morning, Amelia wakes up and panics as she realizes the room is filled with sunlight. It is because her room has blackout curtains. She hears a familiar voice asking if she is finally awake. She is surprised to see it is none other than Frenois Castle. She asks where she is, to which he asks if she does not remember. Amelia tries to remember yesterday's events. She recalls how she Left the house and drank like a maniac. She takes a long pause and suggests they pretend nothing happened. This annoys Frenoise, and he coldly says that it is a clear conclusion. Emilia asks if he wants compensation or something. Francois agrees and says she should take responsibility. Emilia groans. Francois shows her his 15 gold shirt made of the finest silk. He revealed how she was dizzy, held on to him, and threw up on the shirt. He frowns in disgust. Emilia smiles brightly in relief. She agrees to pay him 16 gold with interest. Frenoise SI and reveals that the emperor has reached out asking if he could dedicate the next 10 years to Liliana's health. Francois says that no matter how one looks at it, it is a political marriage. Emilia says she figured it out as much. They agree that it will be tough for Alice to establish herself in the empire. Frenoise says that a woman who is neither royalty, nobility, nor of aristocratic lineage will be ascending as the empress. He asks if the nobles will just sit by quietly. Emilia explains that the eldest is stubborn and will not back down, especially if it concerns Liliana's health. Frenoise comments that she is walking down a thorny path. He was feeling agitated and took a pill to help with his curse. He suggests that he and Alia make a deal. He helps her and Liliana, but in 10 years, she must help him. Emilia asks what kind. Frenoise tells her to just endure a few more years. He says she will know when the time comes to make that happen. He needs to lay the groundwork. Now the scene shifts to Liliana receiving a letter. It states that he heard about the wedding, and it is not his place to interfere. He says he will not be able to visit or see her as his life is busy. He promises to meet at the Empire. Liliana had cried a lot on the day Marius was to meet with her eldest sister officially. Just in time, a letter from Andrea arrived, and it did not a single word for her. There was not even a false pretense of warmth, and his response was as cold to his sisters as it was to Liliana. It seems she has been truly abandoned by her brother, and there is no one who can stop her sisters. The thought of it made Liliana so upset that she ended up crying her heart out. Plus, Emilia has not come home for days. Liliana whines, saying she does not want to go. Marius teases her that it is all because she thinks he is stealing her sister. Embarrassed, Liliana says it is not that. Leopold assures her that she can make new friends in the Empire and mentions how there's a boy her age at his place too. Liliana whines that it is not her original friend. She suggests Alice just not get married, but she regrets blurting it out instantly. Marius assures her there will be many things in the Empire. Liliana blushes as she sees Marius taking her side. He always teases her whenever they meet. She knows he is a good person. Marius promises her delicious food, pretty clothes, and a mountain of toys when they get to the Empire. He also promises to show her fireworks for her birthday. He excitedly promises to give her pig-ack rides and play with her every day. Liliana eventually agrees and promises to come after 100 nights. I would like to assure you that Liliana did not sell her sisters for bribes. She just decided that this way would be better for everyone. The scene shifts to Antonio meeting Liliana. After he learns she is leaving, he cries his eyes out, but Liliana assures him they will write letters to each other, and so they swear to be friends for eternal life. Liliana soon leaves for the Empire. Iana stares at the waving blue sea and the horizon, the lemon and olive trees that are commonly seen while passing on the roads. She stares at the beautiful houses made of white bricks. Traven, her beautiful home. She wonders when she can come back if she leaves now. This charming landscape is from her memories from when she was 6 years old. Will it be forgotten when she grows up? Even though it scares her a lot today, she is heading to the Empire. No matter what, she says her final goodbyes to her hometown. They board the ship, and Alice questions Liliana if she is hungry. Liliana says she is. Liliana asks if she can go outside and see what is going on. In the meantime, Alice agrees to let her go without going too far and entering strange places without permission. With a dejected expression, Liliana stares out at the sea. Traven, who is getting more and more away, making her feel sad. In the end, she's separated from her sister Emilia without even saying goodbye. She misses her a lot and wonders if she is missing her too. Even though she was angry at her sisters, she did not expect them to ignore her life. She begins to cry, wanting to hug Cookie. Just then, Emilia comes out of nowhere and asks if she feels sad about leaving the house. Liliana, without looking up, says she likes her house. She then immediately pauses as she notices that it is a familiar voice. She looks up and is shocked to see her sister standing there. Emilia waves at her and asks how long it has been. Liliana's mouth was still open. in shock and wondered when she got on the boat, her eyes filled with tears once again as she hugged her sister Amelia. Smiles and asks if Liliana missed her so much. Liliana did not answer and just was happy to see her sister Regina, and Alice also approached them wondering how Amelia got there. Amelia smiles and reveals that she will work in the Empire. From now on, she reveals how she quit her previous job and got her job as assistant to the Magic Tower Master. Therefore, she got on board with a special permit. Alice's expression turns dark, intimidating Liliana. Amelia asserts that the family must live together even in the Empire. Amelia questions if it is that Alice does not want to live. Liliana was happy that all her sisters had reunited, but before even arriving at the Empire, it already seems that the environment between them has been completely ruined. At that moment, Liliana begins to miss her dear friend Antonio. Hoping she can go back to Trancha, most certain to Amelia that Alice is marrying for political reasons and Regina's probably following her to support her, she finds it silly to think that she does not know what they think. They are very smart, but they cannot even imagine how difficult it will be to go to the Empire. It is extremely difficult to fall in love with a man whose social class and culture are completely opposite. She scoffs, thinking of them as careless. She is confident of getting every last profit from the Empire. She is not aware of what Frenoise is trying to get from her, but she is determined to follow her sisters. Plus, she plans to let Francois know that they are both equally dark inside. Since they come to this, she plans to completely explode him after a week-long journey. They finally arrive at the Empire. Liliana excitedly stares at outside. Marius watches her with pride. Liliana finds the Empire completely different from Trancha, from high 6-story buildings, difficult to see in her homeland, even extravagant decorations and people and unknown outfits. Everything seems fascinating to her. Liliana had found life on board very boring, but now that she is here, it looks like it is not so bad, although it does not seem to be the same for her older sister. The day Amelia appeared, Regina, and she ended up having a big fight Regina had suggested. She returned to Tir-Ana once they arrived at the Empire, as their specialty was researching special abilities, and it did not make sense for her to research magic in the Magic Tower. Amelia had confronted him, asking if she really wanted to get serious with a man whom she had not even been on a proper date with. Regina confessed that she really liked Leopold. Regina also argued that she could not take care of Liliana alone, with how hard life would be in the Empire while playing hide and seek with Marius and Leopold. Liliana heard their words, by chance hurting her a lot. Regina promised to take care of Liliana and suggested Amelia go back and finish her research. Amelia was irritated and asserted that she was going as a student to learn more various knowledge. She revealed that she has been wanting to research for a long time and do special abilities that overlap with magic and secret powers. She says she wants to unravel that mystery. After that, seeing Regina cry, Amelia also ended up crying. She knows her sisters love her a lot, but she cannot help feeling restless at that moment. Liliana could not help but want her parents, but after that Leopold charged Horsey and Marius played with her and comforted her, which made her feel better. As Liliana sits on Marius's lap, he lectures her to call him your highness or older brother outside the carriage. Before she can reply, she is astounded to see the magnificent palace. As they exit the carriage, all eyes fall on the Burso sisters. It was a level of distrust and hostility that even someone as young as Liliana could perceive. Because of the accent difference, Liliana was finding it difficult to understand what they said until now. Marius and Leopold had strived to accommodate them. Alice thanks the Empire's butler for welcoming them. Liliana wonders if she really has to live in a place like this. Marius welcomes them all to the Empire. Officially, Liliana is shocked as she sees maids greeting her. The maids Mary and Joe explain that if she has anything to do, she can let them know, for example unpacking or organizing things. They tell her to sit back and relax. Liliana is currently at the Leth Palace, where she and her sisters will be staying from today. Tranches have housekeepers but no maids or servants. Liliana does not know when she will get used to it. If she does not pack up, there is nothing much to do. She comes out to see what her sisters are doing. She finds Alice unpacking with the maids. Regina, on the other hand, was smiling and greeting the maids assigned to her. The youngest, Amelia, was organizing her books and documents. She had told the maids that she would move out after finding a house. She had told the maids not to come to her and not to touch anything. It was a difficult atmosphere for Liliana to join in, so she quietly closed the door and left. Liliana, feeling restless and disappointed by the lack of a playground in the Imperial Palace, clutches her stuffed rabbit Cookie and lets out a small pout. She enjoys playing pretend, but today she longs for something new. Determined to entertain herself, she decides to explore the vast palace grounds. As she wanders through the beautifully maintained gardens, her attention is drawn to the vibrant display of flowers. Many were entirely new to her. The array of colors and scents captivates her, making her momentarily forget her boredom. She leans in to examine when an unexpected voice startles her. Turning around, she sees Leopold standing nearby. Her face instantly brightens, and without hesitation she runs toward him, throwing her small arms around his waist. She holds him tightly, her voice filled with genuine warmth as she exclaims how much she misses him. Leopold listens as Lana animatedly complains about how bored she has been since arriving. Understanding her frustration, he tells her that he and his younger brother were also looking for something to do, so he thought it would be a good idea for them to play together. Liliana's curiosity peaks at the mention of a younger brother. Her eyes light up with excitement as Leopold turns to introduce the boy, revealing that he is the same age as her, having someone her own age in the palace, and the idea of a new playmate fills her with eager anticipation as her gaze shifts to the boy standing beside Leopold. Her breath catches in her throat. The first thought that crosses her mind is pretty. Never in her life had she seen a boy as striking as this one, except for Antonio. Leopold places a hand on the boy's shoulder and addresses him as Edgar, urging him to come forward and introduce himself. Liliana, still in awe, greets him cheerfully, her heart brimming with hope that they will become friends. However, before she can say anything more, Edgar suddenly steps forward and with an unexpected burst of anger strikes her. Shocked, Liliana stumbles back, wide-eyed and confused. Pain pricks at her cheek, but more than that, she is stunned by his hostility. No one had ever reacted to her this way before. Among all the children she met in her classes and social gatherings, not one had rejected her, but here stood Edgar, scowling, his voice sharp as he told her not to act like they were friends. To add insult to injury, he calls her a pumpkin. Liliana's lips tremble as she processes his words. She had never been called such a thing before. Her bright mood dims as she stares at Edgar and disbelief. Leopold, equally taken aback, remains frozen for a moment before hastily trying to smooth over the situation. He awkwardly explains that Edgar is just joking, but even he does not sound entirely convinced. Liliana, however, is not sure what to think. With wide, teary eyes, she asks if she truly looks ugly. The thought unsettles her. Was she really a pumpkin? Leopold, sensing her distress, immediately denies such a ridiculous claim, firmly stating that she is far too cute to be considered ugly. His voice is calm and reassuring, but the damage has already been done. Wiana may have received the validation she wanted, but the sting of humiliation remains. This was the first time in her life she had experienced such blatant rejection. Her face heats up, not from embarrassment, but from simmering frustration. She refuses to let Edgar have the last word. If you wanted to be mean, then so could she. Her eyes narrow as she fixes him with a sharp glare. With as much venom as she can muster, she spits out a curse, calling him as dumb as asparagus. The insult takes Edgar by surprise. His face twists in confusion, then in irritation. His brows knit together as he processes her words. Clearly not expecting such a retort from the very first moment they met, Edgar and Liliana found themselves on bad terms. Rather than backing down, Liliana pushes forward, adding another insult to her growing list. She calls him a piece of seaweed floating in the water. Edgar's jaw tightens, and he shoots her a glare of his own. The tension between them thickens, neither willing to concede. Leopold caught in the middle sigh as he attempts to calm Edgar down, but Edgar is already riled up and Liliana is determined to continue teasing him. Their bickering escalates, turning into a full-blown battle of childish insults. Liliana, undeterred, throws in every odd insult she can think of, while Edgar, though clearly annoyed, tries to come up with retorts of his own. Leopold watches with a weary expression. Liliana then dashes away, determined to make the boy regret not wanting to be her friend. The thought of never seeing his face again fills her with satisfaction, as if severing their connection would be a form of victory. However, fate has other plans. Near hours later, they cross paths once more as Marius introduces them properly. Liliana's frustration bubbles up no matter how much she wishes, otherwise the world never seems to align with her desires. She had just rid herself of that infuriating presence, and yet here she was face to face with him again. The seaweed had returned. As they settled down for dinner, the atmosphere shifts. Leopold, ever the gentleman, assists Regina by cutting her meat while Marius extends the same offer to Alice, only to be met with a polite refusal. Marius then suggests that they all take the week to rest and recover from their exhausting journey, his tone light but firm. Meanwhile, Amelia has already disappeared, having gone straight to the Mage Tower without a second thought. Liliana, distracted, absent-mindedly pokes at her tomato, only to watch and dismay as it slides off her plate. Edgar seizes the opportunity to tease her with a mischievous grin. He flicks his spoon, causing a few droplets of sauce to splatter onto her shirt. The sight of the stain fuels her irritation, and before she can think twice, she retaliates. She launches a piece of food in his direction, determined to make him pay. Yet despite her efforts, Edgar remains unscathed. He dodges with ease, his smug expression only intensifying her frustration. Just as she prepares for another attempt, she catches sight of Leopold watching her. Embarrassment creeps in, and she quickly composes herself. She refuses to let that childish seaweed get the best of her. Taking a deep breath, she focuses on regaining her composure, seeking the serenity of inner peace, but peace proves fleeting. A sharp kick lands against her shin from under the table. Edgar, the last of her restraint shatters. Without thinking, she bursts out, her voice ringing through the dining hall, declaring to everyone present exactly how much she hates Edgar. Later, Regina advised her sister not to be too harsh on the boy, reminding her that he only wanted to be friends. Alice agreed, mentioning that despite everything, Edgar was always polite to them. However, Liliana remained unconvinced, recalling how he had mockingly called her spinach and corn. The memory of his constant glares and the disaster that had been their last dinner only added to her frustration. She could not understand why he was so unkind, especially when he was Uncle Leo's younger brother. Regina paused before correcting her, explaining that Edgar was Leo's cousin. Marius's aunt had married Leo's uncle, and their union had resulted in Edgar's birth. Liliana frowned, wondering why he was living in the palace. If that was the case, Regina clarified that Edgar frequently moved between Leo's house and the palace, and that now that Leo and Marius had returned from Trancha, Edgar would be staying at the palace for a while. The news only deepened Liliana's frustration. Alice, meanwhile, had noticed something else. She realized that Edgar's last name was different from Leopold's. Regina explained that after Leo's father inherited the title of Duke of Balin, his younger brother Edgar's father had married Princess Elizabeth and been granted the title of Duke of Raleigh. It was then that the surname changed. The conversation shifted when Alice mentioned Edgar lost both his parents at a young age. Liliana, who had been eating, suddenly paused. The irritation she had felt moments ago wavered as she slowly lowered her spoon, her expression uncertain. With this, the video ends. Will Liliana be able to adjust to her new life at the Empire and be able to live happily with her sisters? Will Liliana and Edgar warm up to each other and become good friends? Stay tuned for more.